From South Carolina Public Radio, this is Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray. Welcome everybody to the show. This week, we're blasting off into orbit and exploring the cosmos, all from the comfort of our radio studio with trivia and games about space.
You got it, dude. Coming up this hour, we'll look at some everyday products we wouldn't have without the space program, test your knowledge of the solar system, and see if you can guess which of our stories about astronauts are true and which one we made up.
If you'd like to be a contestant on the show and play some games with us, we'd love to have you. Just call 803-470-6347. Again, that's 803-470-6347. Or you can send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org. You'll have a shot at taking home the title of Who, What, When Champion of the Week and potentially a very special trophy, the Who, What, When Fanny Pack.
You stitched a special one this week.
I would say this one is out of this world.
Is it NASA adjacent?
It's NASA adjacent. Of course, I couldn't get the copyright to use the NASA font, but if you squint, you'll see it.
Yeah. We're talking about outer space today, which I know is near and dear to your heart.
That's right. And from what I understand, you wouldn't be able to hear this episode if you were in space.
That's correct. Sound does not travel in space.
I don't know if that's true.
You just said it was true.
I'm not. I know. I think
it's absolutely true. Space is a vacuum. Sound waves cannot move there. You can insult me all you want. It's still true.
I just think the jury's still out.
It isn't still out. You're incorrect. But anyway, if you grew up in Florida, Brand.
Yeah, I did.
You're not too far from the Kennedy Space Center.
No, yeah. Titusville, Florida is where I grew up.
Did you ever dream of being an astronaut?
Every day. Still. Every day.
Really?
Every day.
You don't like heights?
I don't like heights, but there's something about going up in like a plane that's not real. If anybody is listening that calls the shots at any of NASA, SpaceX, anybody who can get me up into the sky, call me.
You're in.
Jeffrey Bezos, you listening?
Jeffrey Bezos.
Call your boy.
Hey, Brand's boy.
I'm his boy.
Jeff's boy, Brand.
I want that on the record.
Yeah. He's a Bezos boy. Favorite planet right now, can't take it back.
Jupiter.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get to our first game, Brand.
Okay. That's a great idea, Dano. Again, if you want to be a contestant on Who, What, When, you just gotta call us, 803-470-6347, or you can send us an electronic mail, which does seem like something you'd see in a sci-fi movie, but it's real.
It's real.
Who, What, When at scpublicradio.org.
That's right, Brand. We got some contestants on the line. Caller number one. What's your name? Where are you from?
Hi, my name is Ilazelle, and I'm currently in Columbia.
Columbia, South Carolina.
So are we.
Yeah.
How about that?
Small world.
Man, that's crazy. What's your least favorite thing about Columbia?
Maybe that they're always doing road work at like the most inconvenient times, but no potholes soon. Not yet.
No potholes soon.
Well, I'll believe it when I see it, but also the train that runs right through the middle of our downtown is got to be up there too, right?
Right.
Yeah, of course.
But we love it.
We love it.
We love it.
Ilazelle, thanks for joining us on Who, What, When. You'll be competing against caller number two. Caller number two, what's your name? Where are you from?
Hey, I'm Meredith, and I'm from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina.
Mount Pleasant.
A couple of South Carolina folk today, which
That's
is
right.
fun. Our show is very international. We've learned that from our contestants, but it's always good when we got two locals with us. Meredith, on a scale of 1 to 10, how pleasant is Mount Pleasant?
Mount Pleasant is about an 8.5.
Ooh.
It would be 10, but there's too much traffic.
There's a lot of traffic on that one giant highway there. I know it. I can see it in my head.
But you know what? That's not bad, though.
It
An
isn't.
8.5?
Ladies, are you ready to play our first game this week on our space episode of Who, What, When?
Yes.
I think so.
Let's light this candle. This first game's called Thanks for the Memory Foam.
Oh.
You know, thanks for the memories,
Yeah.
the Fallout Boy. Did
Yeah.
you also know that we wouldn't have memory foam mattresses if it wasn't for research done by NASA for space exploration?
I assume we wouldn't have most things if it wasn't for research done by NASA. So,
Really?
yeah.
No, it's weird, some of the stuff that we get and some of the stuff you'd think you'd get, but memory foam, I mean, I sleep on a memory foam mattress every night, and shout out to NASA for making that possible.
Yeah, I love that.
Buddy.
I love that. I love that for you. I love that for everybody, because memory foam's one of those things where once you lay on it, you're like, oh my gosh, there was a long period of time where this didn't exist.
That's right. That
and I
people just
can't
were
imagine.
On springs.
On springs. Like, that's crazy to me. So thank God for NASA.
Yeah, thank God for NASA. So all of these questions are things that we would not have if it weren't for the research done by NASA
Oh.
for stuff in space. So a lot of times NASA would create something for space travel that maybe wouldn't work out, but it turned out to be something that here on planet Earth we really could use. So that's pretty exciting. And so first up, we have Elizelle with her first question here on Thanks for the Memory Foam. Your question, Elizelle. In the 1990s, a team at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA was tasked with creating cameras of scientific level quality that were also small enough to fit on specific parts of the spacecraft. This work created the model for cameras that now exist in most A, telephoto lenses, B, cell phone cameras, or C, car rear view cameras. So the technology here that was used for the spacecraft now exists in one of those three areas. Elizelle, what are you thinking?
I'm going to have to go with cell phone cameras because I feel like we always, you don't realize you need it till you already made it, I guess. They had them in flip phones, so...
They had them in the flip phone, so
had 'em in the
she's
flip
thinking back through
Yeah.
to the 1990s.
Yep.
That's a smart way to do it because Elizelle's right.
Wow.
And she's
well
on
done.
the board. Cell phone cameras originally were designed to be on spacecraft.
That's crazy.
Can you believe
I love that they that did it get used on the spacecrafts?
The what do you mean it? Cameras?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's
yeah,
how. Yeah.
This type of
Yes,
camera. Though.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
great.
It did. Yeah,
Great.
yeah. And it probably, you know how we have microphones
Yes.
on our cell phones? I
And
bet
on
they
our-
used those to show that there was no sound in space.
Again, but it's different if you think about it.
Okay,
in a
it
sense.
isn't if
Well,
you think about it.
They love our show.
Elizelle's on the. They do. Big space fans, space nuts out there that
That's
love
right.
a who what when.
That's right.
We're playing a little game called Thanks for the Memory Foam because I'm an emo kid, and we've got Meredith, and her question is coming up right now. Meredith, your question. The Lewis Research Center became a part of NASA in the 1950s and has been invaluable in its contributions to space exploration. But when it attempted to create diamond-hard coatings for its aerospace systems, it actually created a process that was patented for something that would come into focus daily for many Americans. Was it the laser lens microscope? Was it the scratch-resistant eyeglass lenses? Or was it the double-paned airplane windows? Which of those things were created by accident by NASA?
And you said it's something that comes into focus for us every day.
For many Americans,
That is in the question, yeah.
I think it's got to be the eyeglasses.
it's got to be the eyeglasses. She took the clue, she ran with it, and she's right.
Well done, Meredith. A lot of people, Meredith, they take a few questions to realize that Dan has given it away in the question, and so kudos to you for really paying attention.
I don't always, but
No, you don't.
sometimes.
You don't.
Sometimes I do. She's a real fan. That's right. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
That's right.
I will say this, Brent. I don't wear glasses.
no,
you don't
I
wear
don't either.
glasses. But can you imagine living in a world before scratch-resistant eyeglasses?
I just feel sad when
You're
I think about
sleeping
it.
on your rock-hard mattress with your glasses that are all
You can't see through all the scratches
scratched up.
and your phones without cameras.
Yeah, it was a different world back then. All right, it's 1-1. We're playing a little game called Thanks for the Memory Foam here on Who What When South Carolina Public Radio. It's Elizelle's turn. Your question. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory also worked tirelessly on technology to improve digital imaging on NASA spacecrafts. And that technology helped create these scans for help detecting medical conditions in the human body. Is it A, a CAT scan, B, an MRI, or C, an X-ray?
I'm actually in school for medical right now, so I think I'm going to have to go with CAT scan.
This is a pretty big one because I just got word if you don't get this right, you have to drop out. And so this is really, really big for you.
Yeah,
Let's
you
find
didn't
out.
you didn't know when you called in here that we were going to ask for transcripts. But
Yeah,
here we
yeah,
are.
This is actually really big.
So you're thinking CAT scans, Elizelle. Why are you thinking CAT scans?
They have I know the other one's history, like X-ray was used in World War II, MRI. There's no way they found that out. I just feel like it's CAT scan.
Her
it's calling
reasoning
me.
is sound.
Yeah.
That's because she's correct.
Wow, thank God. Thank
That's
God
right.
you get to continue
Yes.
schooling. That's
X-rays
wonderful.
and MRIs, magnetic research imaging, were all done well before the CAT scan.
How about
and
the JPL being both the
Cell
reason
phone
behind
cameras
cell
and
phone
CAT
cameras?
scans.
I know. You
right.
wouldn't know it.
Yeah, you use the cell phone until you get cancer from it, and then you get a CAT scan.
To find out.
That's right.
I didn't know. Do people shorten it to the JPL? Because I am now.
Yeah, who down with JPL? That's exactly right. All right, it's 2-1. Meredith, the board is yours with a chance to tie it up here. Here's your question. A former NASA engineer pitched the idea to use suit construction technology to revolutionize this clothing industry, allowing athletes to run faster and jump higher. Is it tracksuits, swim caps, or athletic shoes?
Oh, boy.
Which portion of fashion did NASA engineers make sustainably better?
Well, I think since you said jump higher, it's got to be the shoes, I hope.
She's at it again.
She's at it again.
She's at it again with using information.
It's wild how so many people before this didn't use the clues.
You know what? I'm a teacher.
She's a teacher, and she's here on a Saturday morning with two former teachers. I mean, what a time. And she's correct.
How about that?
It's now 2-2. Nike used NASA patents to create the new form of running shoe that makes it feel as though you have more cushion while still getting the sturdiness to run, and it makes you that walking on air feeling. All of that's a NASA patent.
So can I ask you this?
Please
Since
do.
Nike was using the NASA patent, does NASA get a little kickback
My
for every
guess
shoe
is
sold?
with most things with Nike is they got the patent and then they changed it slightly to make it their own. That would be my guess, but
Well,
I
that
don't
doesn't
have
sound
the
like
information
Nike.
in front of me. But and a tracksuit, man,
Yeah.
that makes you jump. The wind doesn't stand a chance
No.
when you're in a tracksuit.
The tracksuits are important.
Yeah,
Shinier
yeah.
the better. Shinier the better.
You want to give it, that's right, shinier the bettier.
That's right.
All right, Brand, I don't want to say it too early, but I'm gonna. We got a perfect game on our hands.
Uh-oh,
We
you
got
did
a
it.
perfect game on our hands. Both contestants, Elizelle and Meredith, have 2 questions correct, and we're heading into question number 5 here on Who What When on South Carolina Public Radio. Elizelle, your next question. In 1979, NASA approached Black & Decker to create a lightweight device to help collect samples on the moon. The company created the device, then used the same technology to create the first ever version of this now common household cleaning item. Is it A, the Roomba, B, the Dustbuster Mini Vac, or C, the dustpan?
Wow.
I don't think it's Roomba. That was like way too recent.
That's what I'm thinking.
And the dustpan is like, that's too simple. So I think I'm going to have to go with Dustbuster.
She talked it out and she's correct again. Can you imagine if NASA was like, it's a dustpan.
It's the best we got for you.
I got a board and I put 3 sides on it and I call it dustpan.
It's the best. It's the best we got. You know what's
We're
fascinating
paying
about
billions
this?
of dollars and you're coming back with dustpan, Gary? Get out of here.
You know what's fascinating about this one is that NASA has created so many things, but when it came to like getting samples from the moon, they were like, we need to bring in an outside source here.
That's
We got to
right.
go to Black & Decker.
Black &
we couldn't
Decker.
possibly.
There's no way we
couldn't
could-
possibly figure
No,
this
no,
out.
we can't figure it out. All right. Elizelle's got 3, Meredith's got 2, but the board is hers. Meredith with a chance to tie it up. Here's your question. A miniature version of the explosive charge NASA created to separate devices of the space shuttle led to this device that is used by emergency responders to help extricate people trapped in precarious situations. Is that A, the ambulance siren, B, the jaws of life, or C, the stretcher?
Okay, it's got to not be the stretcher. So I'm thinking Jaws of Life.
She's thinking Jaws of Life, and she's correct again. The perfect game continues.
Wow.
Can you imagine if NASA did stretcher and dustpan? You imagine that was the
or
$500 billion, so we got stretcher and dustpan?
I do think the ambulance siren would be important though for the shuttle, because how else would the
Correct.
space people and
Be able to
space
hear it.
be able to
That's
know
right.
that it's coming?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's important.
That's exactly right. of
Thanks for
course.
bringing that up. I
All right,
appreciate it.
It's 3-3. We've got Elizelle, we've got Meredith, we've got Who What When about outer space.
This is exciting.
It is exciting. Elizelle, your next question of the first round starts right now. NASA has long been at the forefront of communications technology, including the creation of this now $50 billion industry that includes such business owners as Ludacris, Lady Gaga, Dr. Dre, Ray J, and 50 Cent. Is it A, wireless headphones, B, Bluetooth speakers, or C, tablets?
Dr. Dre made beats.
That's true.
So I think I'm going to have to go with wireless headphones.
While Beats does produce Bluetooth speakers and wireless headphones, the thing that NASA was at the forefront of help creating years before Dr. Dre was wireless headphones.
There you go.
And she is correct again.
Wow.
The perfect game continues. Fanny pack's looking great. All right, Meredith, you got a chance to tie this bad boy back up here. Your question here on Who What Went. In an attempt to make computers more interactive in the 1960s, NASA researchers came up with this way to manipulate your computer screen. Is it A, the page up, page down, B, the computer mouse, or C, the home and end keys?
Oh, when you were asking the question, I was thinking, you said it's the 1960s, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking the mouse, so let's go with that.
She's thinking the mouse, and she's correct.
Wow.
Man, 4-4 perfect game. Was it too easy? And no one can say, really. All right, it's tied up. There are 2 questions left. Elizelle, you get the first one. NASA sponsored research that explored the use of algae for long-duration space travel contained an enrichment ingredient that turned out to be perfect for this sometimes completely necessary innovation. Is it A, Pedialyte, B, baby formula, or C, milk powder?
I don't think it's Pedialyte. Milk powder, that's old news. I'm gonna guess baby formula.
Yes, baby formula
Wow.
that is now sold in stores is because of NASA research. That is true. And Elizelle
Shout out
has
to NASA.
Shout out.
a perfect category. Meredith, a chance to complete the perfect round. No pressure. Here we go. Your last question. With 98% of its nutrients and only 20% of its weight, NASA's innovation into basic sustenance for its astronauts gave us this innovation. A, freeze-dried food. B, microgreens. C, the microwave.
I am almost positive I know this one. My grandfather and my grandmother volunteered at the American Museum of Science and Technology in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Wow.
And we'd always get the freeze-dried, I think that's the name of it. We'd always get the freeze-dried ice cream, the astronaut ice cream when we were there. So I think it's freeze-dried food.
Not only are you correct, Meredith, but I have a distinct memory of being a child going to the museum here in Columbia, South Carolina,
right.
and getting my hands on some freeze-dried ice cream and it being terrible. But you are correct.
It was exciting.
It was
was
so
exciting.
exciting how bad it was.
That's good.
That's right.
You're listening to Who What When. It's an hour of history, games, and trivia from South Carolina Public Radio. I'm Brandon Gray.
And I'm Daniel Thompson. It's Space Week here on the show. And Bran, I got to say, our contestants today,
Yep.
Elizelle and Meredith, they're out of this world.
Oh, I see what you did there. They got all the questions right so far in the first round, and we got a perfect game. It's wonderful. We love to see it.
Love a perfect game.
Let's see if they can keep it up in our second round.
Right after the break, we'll see how well they know the Milky Way with some solar system
I'm
trivia.
hungry. That's next, right here on Who What When.
Welcome back to Who What When, South Carolina Public Radio's Hour of History, Games and Trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson here with my best buddy, Brandon Gray. Today we're playing games all about outer space.
And we'll get back to those games in just a moment. But first, a quick reminder that we would love for you to be a contestant on this show. All you got to do is give us a call, 803-470-6347, or send us an email, whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org. You might get a chance to take part in our quizzes and, of course, potentially win a fanny pack, get to be Who What When Champion of the Week. It's all available to you. You just got to holler at us.
That's right. One champion of the week is on the line right now. We've got our contestants, or should I say astronauts, Meredith in Mount Pleasant and Elizelle in Columbia, still on the line from our first segment, which they absolutely crushed. It was a perfect game, not a single question missed all round.
That's out of this world, Dan. Let's see how they do in the second round. And for this game, we're going to focus on things a little bit closer to home.
That's right, Brandon. You might not know this, but space is infinite.
Okay,
it
ditto.
just goes on and on. But these questions are going to be about our little corner of the universe, our solar system.
We're talking planets. We're talking stars, moons even. Things people have observed, heard in space, and some things we've even traveled to.
Again, I just want to be very clear. You cannot hear anything in space. But yes,
that?
Brandon's right. Aside from that, that's what this quiz will be about. And our Elizelle and Meredith are going to take turns answering these questions. Elizelle, you're first up. Are you ready for some solar system trivia?
Yes, I am.
I love it. All right. Which planet is known as the giant with the great red spot? Is it A, Mars, B, Jupiter, or C, Saturn?
I know Mars is tiny,
Okay.
and in my head, Saturn is like a blue color. I can't explain it. That's what I think. I have a gut feeling. I think it's Jupiter.
She's got a gut feeling that it's Jupiter, and her perfect game continues, Bran. I was a little worried.
Back in the atmosphere, drops of Jupiter, giant red spot. Yeah.
Did we get trained?
Yeah, we did.
We got
trained.
train on the episode?
It was a pretty big get for us, just for
Man,
that, actually.
Just for that, that's all we have. We have nothing else. from
Nothing
train.
else, I promise.
Elizelle, I'm sorry about that, but I'm happy to congratulate you on your correct answer.
Wow.
It is Jupiter. It's the biggest planet.
Wow.
Named for the king of the ancient Roman gods, Bran, if you can believe it. Yeah, did you have discussed about the ancient Roman gods? Like
I just
did
think they
something
always get all the
personally?
credit. You know, they always get
Do
this
they?
stuff named after them and
All
whatnot.
right. Cool. We'll dive more into that later, but right now
I'll give you my thoughts. I got a type 5.
We've got to, yeah, I bet you do. We got to keep moving though. Unfortunately for all of us, Meredith, you're down again 6-5. The board is yours here on some solar system trivia. Here's your question: who was the first person to take one small step on the moon? Is it A, Buzz Aldrin, B, Neil Armstrong, or C, Michael Collins?
That's Neil Armstrong. I know this one.
Meredith, that is correct. It's Neil Armstrong. It's tied 6-6. Will anyone miss one? I don't know, but you better start working on a second fanny pack just in case.
I'll get started.
Mister. Elizelle, the board is back to you. It's Who, What, When. It's South Carolina Public Radio. It's Outer Space Talk. It's Solar System Trivia. Your next question starts right now. Which planet with rings can be seen from Earth with a small telescope? Is it A, Uranus, B, Jupiter, C, Saturn?
Is it Saturn?
Is it Saturn? She said with a lot of confidence. It is Saturn. Uranus does have rings around it, but Saturn is the one you can see from planet Earth.
How about that?
It's closer to us, and that is correct. The perfect game marches on.
Gotta get myself a telescope. I've been saying it.
Meredith, your question here on Solar System Trivia. Which of these famous NASA space telescopes is the longest running telescope that gives us here on Earth stunning photos from space? Is it A, the James Webb telescope? Is it B, the Chandra X-ray Observatory telescope? Or is it C, the Edwin Hubble telescope?
Okay, I think I know this one. I think it's the Hubble Space Telescope.
It is the Hubble Space Telescope. That is correct. The perfect game continues.
I gotta be honest, my stomach's beginning to hurt.
It is.
Because this is a perfect game. We got two folks that just know their stuff.
Man.
And you love to see it.
You do.
You know, you love to see people that are good at what they do.
That's right. They know that NASA didn't invent the dustpan.
They know that.
They know they didn't invent
Get
the
out of
stretcher.
here.
These are pros.
These
man.
are pros.
They're pros.
They know that there's sound in space.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
No, there isn't. All right, here we go. It's a perfect game. Elizelle, the board is yours. Your question here on Solar System Trivia. Which planet is closest to the sun, making it the first planet in line? Is it A, Venus, B, Earth, C, Mercury?
I know it's not Earth.
You got this. Sing a song.
Oh, you've seen it.
There you go.
I love it.
I think it's Mercury.
You think it's
I don't know.
Mercury. You don't know. You're correct.
Wow.
I at some point memorized the whole thing. My very
too.
expedient, like I memorized some
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
thing for it. What was yours?
There was some sort of. It was like Mercury, Venus, Neptune, Pluto, Earth. I think I maybe mixed up the order, but
I got you. Well,
I'm your Venus. I did like that one.
it
though.
is. Yeah, that's a good song. It was a good song. You told her to sing a song, and on command, she could come up with a song, which is very impressive. Maybe
the
Elizelle
power
should be-
we have.
Yeah, Elizelle should be probably hosting the show. at this point.
Absolutely she should.
All right. She's got the lead. Meredith's got the board. Your question. Which planet is known as the red planet? Is it A, Jupiter, B, Venus, C, Mars?
This one is Mars,
Mars.
like the god of war.
Like the god of war, Bran.
All right, Meredith, back off with that stuff. Sorry, that I went too hard, Meredith. You're correct. Is what I'm trying to say.
He's used to being in space where he's got to yell louder. All right, it's 8-8. The game's getting real. There's 4 questions left, Brand. We're going back to Elizelle. Let's see if she can keep that perfect game alive. Elizelle, who was the first American woman to fly into space, making history for NASA? Is it A, Sally Ride, B, Mae Jemison, or C, Peggy Whitson?
I am not gonna lie. I've never heard any of these names before.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go with A, Sally Ride, because I don't.
She's going to go with A, Sally Ride. And she's going to be right. She's going to be right.
She's riding that guess to a
That's right.
perfect game. My goodness.
Man.
Great name.
Great
name. Sally Ride.
I mean, it's in We Didn't Start the Fire. Wheel of Fortune, Sally Ride, Heavy Metal Suicide.
There you go.
I mean, come on.
How about that?
Yeah. Elizelle, you are correct. The perfect game continues.
Sometimes you know stuff and sometimes luck's on your side. However you slice it or dice it, we got a perfect game continuing
we do.
with only 3 questions left, Dano.
That's exactly right. Meredith, the board is yours. Your question. Which planet has the nickname Earth's twin because of its similar size and composition? Is it A, Mars, B, Venus, C, Neptune?
I am pretty sure this one is Venus.
She's pretty sure it's Venus, and
But that is some love.
it's
Meredith, I'm going to kindly.
I told you I'm a teacher.
it's Venus. That is correct.
Wow.
Venus is correct. Meredith has tied it once again. It seems like she's taught all this before.
It does.
You know what I mean? Elizelle, this is your last question. Which planet is famous for having a day that's longer than its year? Is it A, Mercury, B, Venus, C, Mars?
This is a tough one, Elizelle.
I don't know this one. I think I just want to sing Venus because I want to sing the song again. But if I do get it right, I said it with confidence. So I think it's Venus.
She thinks it's Venus. You would think that back-to-back questions having the answer of Venus would not be the case here on Who, What, When, but you would be incorrect.
Wow.
And Elizelle is correct.
Oh, my gosh.
She's completed two perfect rounds. Fantastic. Wow. What a game.
Meredith,
Whoa, Meredith.
This is big.
Here we go.
Let's see if the gods can help you.
Okay.
I say sarcastically.
Here we go. Meredith, your last question in our solar system trivia. Who was the first man to journey into outer space? Is it A, Alan Shepard, B, Yuri Gagarin, or C, John Glenn?
Oh my gosh, I don't know this one.
Uh-oh.
So can you give me a clue?
I cannot.
So now I need to know if it was Russia or the USSR or the US that did it first, right?
That would at least help you narrow it down.
I feel like it was maybe Russia, and that could have set off the space race or been a part of it. So I'm going to go with the man who sounds like he's Russian, Yuri.
Well, I mean, Yuri's offended, but also, Yuri Gagarin is your guess, and Yuri
that's my
Gagarin is correct.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Amazing.
Meredith was right on with her thinking there. Even though the United States was first and only to the moon,
That's right.
Russia actually did beat us to space in satellite form and human form.
Yes, so
Yuri-
that was going to be what maybe would trip me up, is because I did know that they beat us to space, but whether or not it was a manned mission kind of was the holdout for me. But I love the thought process there, Meredith. Great job.
Nicely done.
You're listening to Who, What, When. It's an hour of history, games, and trivia here on South Carolina Public Radio. I am Brandon Gray.
And I am Daniel Thompson. Thanks for joining us for this episode about outer space. And what an episode it is. Our contestants, Elizelle and Meredith, are tied coming out of our second segment.
They're just a couple of stars, Dan.
There they are.
It's like the space.
Yeah, space.
Anyway, a tie means that they're both heading into the final segment today. It's huge, it's big, and they both have a chance to take home the Who, What, When Chamber of the Week. They could both potentially win fanny packs. There's a lot up for grabs here.
A lot up for grabs. They're shooting for the moon. We'll see what happens. That and more right after this break. It's Who, What, When. Welcome back to Who What When, South Carolina Public Radio's hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson.
I am Brandon Gray. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite subjects, the famously loud and noisy outer space.
None of those things.
A place where you can hear basically anything.
Once again, Brand, you cannot hear anything. We've brought it up a few times. Space is a vacuum. You will not be able to hear it in space.
Big old noisy space.
As I
At it
mentioned
again.
earlier, space is a vacuum. There is no air there. Sound cannot travel in space. Remember the tagline from the first Alien movie? In space, no one can hear you scream. How many times are we going to have to do this?
It's funny you mentioned that, Dan. You know that in my free time, I'm a bit of an inventor,
did
a
know that.
tinkerer,
Yeah.
if you will, and I do. And I've been putting something together. I've whipped a little something up
You've got
that I
something
think is
that...
going to help this situation right here.
Do you build another robot? What are you doing?
I made a robot.
Every time it's a robot. Every time it doesn't work out. Every time we do this, it's back and forth. What are you doing? You're not a robot maker.
Okay. This time, I will say I think I've made my own AI, if you will.
Oh, AI's big in the news right now, Brandon.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
you got it right.
And this AI will help us settle our famous disagreements that we have on this show. May I introduce to you the first of its kind, the Nobots, the knowledge robots.
Why?
It is my honor to serve. I am programmed to quiz.
There it is. He said quiz.
I do. Okay. Yeah. So I think something happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm
And
shocked
he's-
here. Big surprise.
He's supposed to settle our scores. He's not
He didn't do
supposed
that at
to
all,
quiz
did he?
us.
No. But he's here to quiz us.
He's here to quiz us.
Once again, another failed robot experiment. Just a quiz bit. It's crazy how that happens. Brand, I do love this for you.
Yeah.
We have a show to do.
Right.
Is the only way past this to have the Nobot quiz us?
Let's find out. Nobot, are you ready?
It is my robot honor to serve. Allow me to introduce my famous outer space before and after questions.
Oh, before and after I'm back on board.
Nah,
Nobot,
nah,
hit me.
It's all a part of my plan, Dan.
Yeah, I bet it was.
These questions will combine things in outer space with famous people, books, etc. to create something entirely new. For example, add some outer space and this former South Carolina governor and UN ambassador becomes this famous celestial body that comes into our view every 75 years.
I know this one.
Yeah.
It's
Nikki Haley's Comet. That's
Correct.
right. Yeah.
So you get it. You get
we
the
got
We
it.
bet.
do
We
get
get it.
it.
We get
Thank
it.
you, Nobot.
You invented
Okay,
the robot.
let's get into it then.
Get started.
Number one, add some synths, and this opening tagline from Star Trek becomes an 80s pop duo famous for their songs Shout, Head Over Heels, and Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
So it's Tears,
Tears
for
for
Fears.
Fears.
Something that adds some sense.
Some sense.
The tagline from Star Trek,
Boldly going where no man has gone before.
keep going.
Only
actually,
going where no man has gone
Gone
before,
before.
Tears for Fears.
let's go back a little bit. I'll give you the answer.
Nobot, I don't think you know what's going on.
Space, the final,
Frontiers for Fears. Yeah.
There you go.
The tagline is boldly going, but Space, the Final Frontier is the first line of the theme. Yes.
I didn't know I was with a bunch of nerds.
Sorry, that's on us.
Space, the Final Frontiers for Fears.
Tears for Fears, though.
Of course.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a great play on words.
All right, well, let's.
Next up.
Hit me with another one,
Next
Nobot.
up. Add a few stars, and this original member of the Jackass crew turned podcast host, and he becomes the most famous part of this constellation of a hunter.
I got this one. This is
That's
Steve Orion's
O'Reilly.
belt.
Yeah.
Correct, Steve Orion's
No,
belt.
you said Steve O'Reilly, which is not correct at all.
I did say Steve O'Reilly. AI, which one's right?
Steve Orion's belt. Next, take this story about an orphan mouse that gets adopted by humans, adopted over human orphans, might I add. Send it to space, and it becomes a constellation of a spoon or ladle, also known as Ursa Minor.
We're going for Stuart Little Dipper, I believe.
Okay.
Stuart Little
It's a
Dipper,
Little Dipper,
is what
yeah.
we're going with.
Stuart Little Dipper is correct.
Love that for
Imagine being those kids that the rat got chosen over.
Nobot, for somebody that's supposed
Nobot-
to be a robot, you're getting very in the weeds
It's
here.
Saturday morning, Nobot.
Come on, man.
Imagine the kids.
This is your invention, by the way.
I start. Nobot, you're on a tight leash, bud.
That's right. Get it
Next
together.
up, take this term for when a star explodes at the end of its life due to runaway nuclear fusion. Add Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, and it becomes a repeatedly remade movie about a seasoned songwriter meeting and falling in love with an unknown singer.
Are we looking for Supernova Star is Born?
Correct. Supernova, A Star is Born.
Nova.
You want me to give you the next one, Brandon?
Sure.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, here I go. This is it.
Add some orbiting space debris to this story about a hobbit having to travel with a wizard to destroy cursed jewelry, and it becomes the most famous trait of the second largest gas giant in the solar system.
Uh-oh.
And that's a tough one.
Is it?
Lord of the Rings is the second part.
That's the first part.
What's the second part?
Oh, yeah, no. So you did the. I got it. Do you know it?
No, I'm still lost.
Lord of the Rings of Saturn.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
Lord of the Rings of Saturn.
Yeah, I thought Rings
I
of
need
Saturn
your
had
help.
to be first.
I can't. These
This is
before
not how
and
you
afters
think.
don't compute in my
It's
mind.
so weird that you invented this bot.
Clearly I goofed. Is that what you want me to say?
That AI will get you every time.
Next up, take this rapper and parachute pants evangelist, who is famously too legit to quit, make him the Roman messenger of the gods, and he becomes the closest planet to the sun.
MC Hammercury.
Oh,
That is correct.
MC Hammercury is what we're
Yes,
looking for.
Ham
That's
Mercury.
good.
It took
That's
me a
good.
second there to figure
Yeah.
that the correct emphasis
That's
there.
good.
Next, take away all the light from this 90s millennials quintessentially scary show that aired during SNICK, aka Saturday Night Nick, and it becomes this non-visible hypothetical substance that is theorized to make
Got
up
it.
a large portion
I
of the
got it.
universe.
Take
I
this
got
one.
this one. Are you afraid of the dark matter?
Correct.
Yeah, he's back, baby.
My creator got it.
Thank you.
Here's my favorite one.
Okay.
You have a
can
favorite.
have favorites.
Nobot's got a favorite.
This is my favorite one.
Nobot's got a favorite one. Cool.
Take the smallest once planet, now planetoid, in our solar system, add a Philip K. Dick sci-fi story, and it becomes a 1990 Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he may or may not actually go to Mars.
We're looking for a Plutotal recall.
Yes,
Wow.
correct.
Plutotal recall. I thought Pluto was back in planets. Is it not?
Planetoid.
Planetoid. Sorry. You know, Nobot. You know.
Finally, my last. Take this famous one-hit wonder behind Mambo number 5, send him to space, and he becomes this class of planet that includes Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus.
Lube gas giant.
Lube gas giant is it?
Wow. That's a good one.
Have I done well, creator?
I think
I don't know. I mean, you did well at that.
Nobody
thing,
crushed it.
But I didn't. This isn't
I
what I
stand corrected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, I'm in a tough spot because what I want to do is I want to pack Nobot up and ship it to space where no one can hear it scream, except everyone will be able to hear it scream
No, you're
because
wrong
it's
about that.
space.
The wires were crossed.
Wires
All right,
across.
Nobot, God
I
bless.
loved it. Thanks so much.
Your itinerary says you must go.
That's true. We do. We got a big game.
This is Who What When, an hour of history, games, and trivia on South Carolina Public Radio. I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray. Don't forget that you can join us on a future edition of Who, What, When. All you got to do, call us, 803-470-6347, or send us an email, whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would. And we've got our contestants, Meredith and Elazelle, on the line,
Wow.
who finished our first two rounds with a tie game. Normally, we'd have only one contestant going to our final game, but today, they're both playing to have a chance to win Who What When Champion of the Week and one of those sweet, sweet Who What When fanny packs.
That's right, Dan. And all they got to do is to get through our final game today. It is one that we like to call History or His Story.
That's right. Here's how it works. I'm going to tell you 3 stories about outer space. 2 of them are real. One of them was made up completely by me.
Right.
It's my story, his story even. Elazelle and Meredith will have a chance to ask questions after each story and chat with Bran a little bit, and then they'll have to tell us which one of these stories they think is the lie. That's how we play History
History or His Story! I snuck up on
you.
you.
Really did. You jumped at it. Brain, you're really good at this game.
I'm not, but I do appreciate it. I appreciate you saying it. I tend to overthink it. That would be my advice to the two competitors here is go with your gut. Don't overthink it. Sometimes I try to outthink the room here where it's just not necessary. But I'm excited for this one, particularly because space and space history is so crazy.
Yeah.
And so much of it sounds made up, like, oh my, you can't hear anything or whatever. So I'm really excited to see what the two real stories are, and if you can possibly come up with a story that's crazy enough than what's actually out there. So, Dan, I'm excited. You got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I'm going to do the best I can. Here we go. All three of these stories are about astronauts. Are we ready to roll?
Ready to roll?
Let's do it. Story number 1, astronauts on Gemini 3 need a sandwich. Story number 1, here we go. Gemini 3 in 1965 is the first crewed mission in NASA's Gemini series. It did 3 orbits around the Earth. It was first to land in the lunar highlands, you're very familiar, where lunar module astronauts spent over 20 hours doing moonwalks or extravehicular activities.
I can moonwalk.
I bet you can. John Young was the commander of Gemini 3. He's one of the most decorated astronauts in NASA's history. He's also the commander of the first space shuttle mission in NASA history, the Columbia. He's also the commander of Apollo 16's moon landing. Needless to say, he has a fair share of accomplishments. But of all his accomplishments, Young also is involved in one of the weirdest scandals in space history. Upon boarding the Gemini 3, Young smuggled a corned beef sandwich in his pocket.
Honestly, same. I love this. Yeah.
After a successful takeoff, the two-man crew, Young and Gus Grissom, had a conversation because of the smell of the sandwich. Grissom wanted to know what the smell was. Young said it was a sandwich he brought with him, and he just wondered how it would taste in space. Young tasted the corned beef sandwich and quickly put it back in his pocket because the sandwich would stay together. And in a later view, he expounded, saying after one bite that crumbs of the bread started flowing everywhere. He said this was a thought to take a sandwich to space, but not a very good one. And that was the last they spoke about the sandwich on the trip. NASA, on the other hand, wasn't happy one bit. The U.S. House of Representatives did a full review of the incident. The Committee on Appropriations cited safety concerns about the unknown substance in the spacecraft and crumbs interfering with the operations of the spacecraft. They called it a $30 million sandwich, which corned beef can get expensive.
It sure
so
can.
Look out.
In this economy?
NASA Associate Administrator for Manned Spaceflight said, "We have taken steps to prevent the recurrence of corned beef sandwiches in future flights." Young was reprimanded but not charged formally and continued his long and storied career as an astronaut for NASA. That's the end of story number 1.
You know, this is an interesting story, one that I relate to personally as somebody who has smuggled many sandwiches into many places. I think that this is a tricky one, though, Dan, because it's not like we crushed space travel to begin with. There was lots of explosions, lots of ships that didn't quite make it. And if I'm going into one of these ships, I'm not risking
With
it.
all the things that could go wrong.
Yes, because if you touch
Pastrami
one
on
thing
rye.
wrong, if a crumb goes into one place it shouldn't go, that could mess up everything.
You're kind of cheating death with being in
You
it.
sure are. So
you
what's
may
a
as well have
sandwich?
a Sammy.
I do love his reasoning of I just wondered how it would taste. I appreciate that
tasting
because it's something I hadn't thought about until now, and now I can't stop wondering about the taste. Illizel, after hearing this story, what are your thoughts on it? Do you have any questions?
$30 million sandwich? I feel like that's a really expensive sandwich, first of all. I wonder where he got it from, though. Do you think he made it?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think it
Do
was
you
from
know
a
if he made
restaurant in town that
Oh,
he really
really?
loved. Yeah,
it? Okay.
Like a Bucky's brisket.
yeah, like a Bucky's
Like a-
brisket. Taking a Bucky's brisket up there. Meredith, any thoughts from you?
I'm picturing like the big spacewalking suit when you say he had it in his pocket and wondering like where does that fit? But I think they go in more like a jumpsuit
Yeah.
when they go into the whatever the spacecraft is called. It seems wild that he had a sandwich in his pocket.
I envision it like a pocket square, like in his breast pocket.
It couldn't be because if he brought a sandwich, he'd want a big sandwich, wouldn't he?
For sure. You want a big boy.
but also
He's gonna go through problem.
you know this was 1965 because if it was recently, Arby's would have capitalized. Like we have the meats, like it pretty much writes itself.
It sure does.
Like Ving Rhames in an astronaut, it's out of this. Yeah, it's coming. It's a no-brainer. All right. Are we ready to move on to the next story?
I'm ready.
All right. In the second story, titled astronauts on Apollo 10 hear weird music in space.
That's
Now-
right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Brand
right.
already has decided this one is true. All right, let me tell you about Apollo 10. It was 1969. It was the fourth crewed mission in the Apollo series, the second crew to orbit the moon. This is considered the dress rehearsal for the moon landing, which would occur on Apollo 11 just 2 months later. 2 astronauts were in a lunar module that orbited the moon just miles above its surface, while 1 astronaut remained in the command module, which was higher up or further away from the moon's surface. At this point, the astronauts began to hear something weird. Initially, Eugene Cernan called it a whistling sound, asking if others heard it or if it was just a problem with the comms or the microphones. John Young, yes, that John Young from the sandwich story earlier, the command module pilot, confirmed he also heard the sound, Bran. In a conversation...
Definitely not a sandwich, guys. It's definitely not a sandwich.
It's not roast beef stuck in between my 2 front teeth. In a conversation recorded by NASA, Cernan says that it sounds like outer space type music.
You know the type.
Yeah, where it's something that's being emitted into our speakers and we don't know what it is. As the orbit continued, Cernan began to complain to Mission Control and to Young that the music was eerie and it was starting to scare him. It was really bothering him. They then have a very short exchange where Cernan says, "Who's going to believe this?" John Young says, "Nobody," in between bites of his sandwich, obviously. "Should we even tell anybody about it?" The astronauts never publicly discussed the weird sounds when they returned to Earth, and NASA didn't address it until a few months later when they solved the riddle during the Apollo 11 mission. When Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin left in the lunar module to make the descent to the moon's surface, they began to hear the same music. According to Armstrong, it sounded like wind whipping around the trees. As soon as the lunar module landed, the noise stopped. They discovered at that point that the lunar module and command module both had VHF radios that were apparently causing the noise through interference on the 2 radios. Likely story, Brand says. That's the end of story number 2. Brand, what do you think?
Well, I think it tracks everything we know about NASA in regards to what they think that the public can handle. Proves to me that this story would be accurate. Yes, they hear something. They don't think that they should bring it public because of conspiracy theorists like myself that would latch onto this story and be like, see, this is what's happening. So they keep it secret until they figure it out, and then they go, hey, here's a funny story. So I can believe the story. I do believe, Producer AT, you have a clip of that sound. Take it away, Producer AT. Wow, that is scary. Imagine hearing that in space.
Yeah.
Ilizelle, do you have any thoughts on this story? Any questions?
Could you imagine you're in space and hearing things, and then when you come back down to Earth, they're like, "Yeah, no more space time for you. I think you're done."
That's true, because it's like, what do you don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah,
because
he's going, "No, guys, I heard
something.
That's
right.
tough.
That's tough. Yeah, that's a tough story.
Meredith, what are you thinking?
I think I would be so scared if I were them. Was that an actual clip of the? It wasn't a clip of the music, right?
That was as real as it could be.
As Train was earlier.
Yes.
Oh, as real as Train was earlier.
Yes.
I don't know. That sounds really wild to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would be really scared if I were them.
All right. So we got 2 stories. They both had John Young in them. What do you think the odds are the third one has John Young in it?
I'm a betting man. I'm going to go 100%.
Yeah.
All in on black.
Pretty good odds. The third story is called Astronauts on Apollo 17 Borrow a Space Rake.
Is that similar to a dustpan?
No, NASA would never.
They would never.
Apollo 16 in 1972 is the 10th manned mission in the Apollo program, 5th to land on the moon, 1st to land in the lunar highlands, which are heavily cratered. These are big boy craters. They spent over 70 hours on the moon's surface, including 20 on the moon in lunar vehicles or on moonwalks. They collected over 200 pounds of lunar samples. Now, with less gravity, how do you think such moon rocks are collected? Well, with basic tools that just have a little bit more gravitational pull to them. The dustpan doesn't look as bad as it did before, did it?
That's right.
Astronauts would routinely use tools such as hammers, rakes, shovels, tongs, and scoops, all built to withstand the elements or lack thereof in outer space. Module pilot Ken Mattingly and Commander Charles Duke had a miscommunication on their last sample collection, and neither astronaut brought the space rake, which it was its name, back from the collection. So when Apollo 16 leaves, they leave a rake on the moon. They leave it. It's not in their toolbox or in their collection. And due to the timing of the module meeting up with the command module, it was determined that the rake would be left on the moon's surface. So let me take you to Apollo 17 in 1972. It is the final moon landing of the Apollo program. It's less concerned with the volume of lunar samples and more concerned with biological experiments containing 5 mice. But who's the commander of the module? You guessed it, John Young once again. They do a little bit of lunar collection in the lunar highlands, and upon collecting lunar samples, the crew of Apollo 17 happens upon the rake left by the previous crew. While the Apollo 17 crew did not need the rake and did not plan to use it, they did pose for several pictures with the rake to bring back home to the crew of Apollo 16 to make them feel silly for leaving a rake on the surface of the moon. NASA refused to let the Apollo 17 bring back the rake aboard the lunar module. Still dealing with so many unknown factors of space travel and environmental tests, there was belief that the length of exposure could be transmitted to the astronauts. In 1996, it was confirmed that such exposure obviously isn't possible, and the rake is still there, and we do have a picture of it at NASA headquarters. Wow. That is the end of story number 3.
I do love that once again, our boy John Corned Beef Young is out here trying to bring something else on board of a ship. It's just like, this is the thing that he does.
Johnny boy.
I don't know what to do with this story because it's just so silly to me. I don't know.
It's corned beef. It's crazy sounds. It's a space rake. What do you want from me?
That's
this is history, baby. Elizelle, what are you thinking here?
I feel like that is like too detailed.
Ooh.
Like, you can't make that up.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be true. Like, they have like a mural of the rake in their office.
NASA would. $30 billion sandwich, mural of the rake.
That's right.
That's who they are. Thanks for the memory foam, you know?
Meredith, what are you feeling right now?
I love the vision of them like kind of gardening on the moon and leaving their stuff out.
You know.
And the guy trying to bring the rake back onto the spaceship. That's great.
All right, Meredith and Elizelle, you've heard all 3 stories for History of His Story. Take a minute and think about which one you think is true and which one you think Dan has made up. Here are the stories one more time. Astronaut John Young smuggled a corned beef sandwich and became my hero on the Gemini 3 mission in 1965. Second story. The crew of the Apollo 10 mission heard weird whistling noises while they were in space in 1969. And the third story, astronauts on the Apollo 16 mission accidentally left a rake on the moon's surface, which was later found by the Apollo 17 crew. Elizelle, we're going to start with you. Which one of these stories do you think Dan made up?
I feel like it's the music.
The music.
Why do you think that?
John Young was obviously a silly guy. I feel like he didn't have the humor to gaslight everyone to hear the music too, but he could have brought the sandwich and left the rake. Cause I don't know the guy, but I feel like he would. That's something he would do.
I love it so much.
He's a silly guy.
All right, fantastic. All right, Meredith, Elizelle has made her guess. It is now your turn. 3 choices. Corned beef sandwich, whistles and music in outer space, or the space rake. Give me which story is my story and tell me why you think that.
I feel like I've heard of the music before at some point in my life. I feel like I've heard of that. So I think that one's true. And I truly want the corned beef sandwich one to be true because I think that's so funny. So I'm kind of willing that one to be true. So I'm going to go with the space rake being the fake one because I also don't understand how it would not have floated away. Or something like that.
I love it.
So
Okay.
I'm going with the space rake being the made-up one.
So here's what we have, Bran. Elizelle has chosen the music being the lie.
Yes.
Meredith has chosen the space rake being the lie. The first story, the corned beef sandwich story. 100% true.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Amazing.
No one is happier than our producer, A.T. Shire, who was
thrilled.
desperately wanted John Young to be honking on a corned beef sandwich in outer space. That's just, God, his Sammy game is strong.
John Young was high out of his mind in every possible way.
Yeah. All right, which means one of you's correct and is walking away with the fanny pack. Stop working on that second fanny pack because
I'm done. I already threw it in the trash. It's on fire.
Here we go. It's on fire in the studio here. The space rake, John Young leaving the space rake, is my story. It is a lie.
Meredith, you got it.
Which means Meredith is the winner and has completed the perfect game here on Who What When.
So the space sound is correct.
The sound story did happen.
Wow.
True story. Elizelle, I got to be honest. You got one question wrong in an hour of radio, and somehow you're not the winner. That doesn't seem fair. You were such a great player, Elizelle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it.
We'll send you a corned beef sandwich as a second place prize.
Correct, of course.
Homemade, please.
You got it.
Of course.
You got it.
Elizelle, thanks for joining us. Meredith, you're the big winner this week on Who What When. How does it feel?
It feels awesome.
I love it.
Well, thank you all so much. This was really fun.
Oh,
Thank
perfect.
you. And thank you so much for listening.
Yeah,
It means
tell
a
your
lot.
friends.
And that's going to do it for the space edition of Who What When. Thanks again to our contestants Meredith and Elizelle for playing with us today. Congratulations again to Meredith for being this week's winner.
Our producer is A.T. Shire. Our executive producer is Sean Birch, who we like to call our little space cadet. This show is a production of South Carolina Public Radio and is made possible in part by listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina.
Want to be a contestant on Who What When? Just give us a call, 803-470-6347, or send us an email to whowhatwhen@stpublicradio.org.
You can find out more about the show and listen to this episode again at our website, southcarolinapublicradio.org/whowhatwhen.
And you can subscribe to Who What When wherever you listen to podcasts and listen through your smart speaker by just asking it to play Who What When.
I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray. Join us next week for more history, games, and trivia right here on Who What When.